Hello and welcome back to the She Who Dares Wins podcast. My guest this week is Hannah. How are you doing, Hannah?
I'm good, thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks for having
You're
me.
welcome. So the audience should know that we do already know each other. We had offices quite a few years back. But I'll get straight into it. She Who Dares Wins. Tell me about when you've dared and won.
Well, in this context, I think, as we were just chatting, it's in business, really, isn't it? Going into business on a whim off the back of redundancy, mainly because I wanted to be master of my own time. After like 10 years in industry working for people, I was running a lot of community events at the time, and I got made redundant. And instead of finding another employment, I decided to set up my own business so that I could manage my own time between networking and running the community events that I enjoyed. But that was a bit of a leap at the time because I would just got married. I'm not married now. And I'd also just bought a house. So I had just still paying off a wedding and a mortgage. So it was a bit of a leap to not just go and get another job. And that business is now 8, and I set up another business in between that's 4 years old. That's a food business. So I think it was a bit of a dare that I'm going to run my own business. I'm going to be my own boss. I'm going to call myself a director, and I'm going to swan around enjoying myself, but also balancing that out with like the things I actually like to do. And yeah, it's reasonably worked out. I'm still self-employed 8 years on.
Amazing. So you ticked all the boxes in terms of, I say that in a wrong term, but you married, like set up, had a decent job. Did you know quite early on then that wasn't, not the marriage, but I mean the job, obviously that as well. Did you know quite early on that there was something else for you? Was that like an instinct, or did it come from family being in business? Where do you think that came from?
Yeah, maybe. My dad ran his own business from when I was about 10. My dad went into business on his own. He ran care homes until very, very recently. He's only just retired. But I suppose, yeah, there's that side where I'd seen someone run their own business, and I was in the Leeds ecosystem where everybody runs their own business.
Right, okay.
And I joined a freelancers group, and everybody in the group started to like drift off and actually become proper full-time freelancers. And I was like the last person in the group, and I was like, oh God, right, I'm going to have to do something because they're going to make me leave this group otherwise. So I think I was in a good, I've always said being in the right network helps, having the right people around you. So I think I was in a group that was quite conducive to, take the leap, it'll be all right.
Yeah, jump forward and yeah. So that initial leap then was with your marketing company.
Yeah.
What was it like though, that first? Was it a good leap? Was it into darkness? Like, did you instantly have work? Was there a good transition? Because I think people worry about that. I think people worry about starting a business.
Yeah.
You know, do you just leap into the depths, or do you set yourself up?
I think I had one client when I went freelance, but that one client was not paying enough to sustain me. But yeah, I think someone told me very early on that something will always turn up, which is true to an extent. Something will always turn up if you position yourself in the right place and you're open to it. So I think a lot of people that I see in business that are kind of like trying to get started up a business, they're expecting that like that one dream thing to come, or loads and loads of great, perfect projects to turn up. That won't turn up, but something will turn up. And that something is something that you have to do maybe to make good whilst something better comes along. And I think that's the reality of it. It's a balance, and it's still a balance 8 years on. You know, there aren't like anyone that tells you that if they've got a full book of clients that they absolutely love and adore, they're living their best life, are, probably doing it for influencer purposes. It's just not a real thing. You know, you have to plan. It's like 80-20 is what they say. 80% pays for the 20% that I love, and hopefully it's higher. But realistically, you take what comes along, that's not too against your morals or values, to sustain the bits that you do enjoy. Because you know, that's the way it is. You can't enjoy it 100% of the time, but you can try and get as close to that as possible.
Yeah. And we were discussing before this podcast, you know, sometimes it's hard to make the right decisions and you kind of have to go with your gut instinct. But 8 years and then starting this new business, how do you now ride the roller coaster or do you not find it as a roller coaster? Because I have this thing of starting new projects or a new business, as the highs are amazing, and then it's like, actually, it's how do you cope in the lows when the money isn't coming in, the clients aren't there. You know, you have a bad week where someone doesn't turn up or cancels on you. 8 years in, what's your biggest like advice to anyone?
I think, you know, don't beat yourself up. It's 8 years in, it's no different sometimes from probably year 1 or 2. I think I had a lot more optimism. Whereas, you know, now they're, especially like post-pandemic and over the course of 8 years, and marketing is always the first thing to get cut, there can be a lot of lows. You know, I've had those times where that's it. I'm in an absolute shutdown mode, 3 days, no word from them, off grid. And then you just need to regroup and come back at it because there's no choice.
Yes.
That's the other thing about being self-employed. There is no choice. But yeah, I don't think it gets nothing changes. It will always be like that.
Just bigger beast, I guess. Like the more you grow, the bigger you become, and those challenges still exist. That's very like open and honest. I think you wouldn't have too many business owners that say the truth just like that. In that, you know, I think people sometimes put across that everything is amazing when you work for yourself, and the reality is people need to know it's not. There are massive upsides, but there's
it's definitely not. It's definitely a very challenging, lonely world. And I always say that that's why I always talk about community and network. You need someone that's not your partner or your friends. You're a dump this on your friends all the time. You need a network of people that you could just say, like, you know, one thing, like, and they will get it. And you don't need to say too much more, because it's not a fun joyride. Even when it's going well, you've still got to manage your books. You've still got to find a good accountant. You've still got to find, there's always something. So I find it really difficult when you find like a lot of people that present it to be so perfect, because it's not. And that's really disillusioning for people that come in to start their own business, because I think they should be aware that, yeah, you start your own business, which is a massive achievement, but be prepared. Yeah, you'll be a bit, you've got to be a bit like thick-skinned. You've got to be a bit like, someone said, Teflon. I'll be a bit of Teflon. Things got to run off you. One day's going to go terrible, but never mind, you've got to get on the next day.
You've got to keep going.
I keep going. I keep meeting people. I keep having conversations.
Has there ever been a point in your business career where you've been close to quitting, and like what's pulled you back?
I think if you ask my friends, they say that every year I used to threaten to quit again. I tend to have I have a terrible burnout cycle. It always comes to like November, and I lose my voice, and I just like, because we don't normally get quieter for Christmas, we normally get busier. But people are like, oh, I want to put the last couple of campaigns out, and I want to do an advertising campaign that starts the 1st of January, because we all know we're all there just waiting for ad campaigns in B2B marketing to kick off on the 1st of Jan. But I think, for a good many years, every year I'd be like, right, that's it, I've had enough. I'm getting a job.
Yeah. But you can't, can you? And I can't, like, I don't think I could either. It's something in you that...
Yeah.
Yeah. And that shows with the success of both the businesses that you've had.
Yeah, and I think that, like, the experience has also taught me that there's a lot of difference between freelance, running your own agency, and contracts of work. You know, having recently just completed contracts work, that's a whole different ball game to running your own business or freelancing. And so I've seen now all the different types of work available, and that also helps focus my mind. Like, what suits you?
Well, you turned a passion into your newest business, which is not really new. It's 4 years down the line now. Tell us about that business and how that came about.
So Little Yellow Rice Co. is it's a bit of a legacy. It's basically a heritage brand. So it's a tribute to my great grandfather, who migrated from the island of Hainan to Malaysia, opened a coffee shop to make his fortunes. And my grandfather was the oldest of his 10 children, and he was the first one to be educated, and then he took on earning money to then provide education for the rest of them. So most of that family have been to university, and it's a couple of generations down now. That's my granddad I'm talking about. So, I'm obviously a few generations along, and for me it's so important because I don't think that my cousins appreciate the kind of resilience, especially me as a business owner, that it would have taken for my granddad to leave a country, go to another country, don't speak the language. And it's a story that a lot of people will share. But for me, with that kind of business heritage and also with like food heritage, so it's such a big part of my identity. I wanted to create Little Yellow Rice Co as a bit of a legacy to that to carry on. And specifically for Peranakan culture. So my family heritage is that we are Chinese Malaysian, Peranakan being a mixing of like the Chinese, straight Chinese with the Malaysians, Singaporeans and Indonesians. There's a lot of kind of food culture and a lot of nuances in the way that culture kind of plays out, which might not be high profile, I think, for people that are just traveling to Malaysia on the holidays. So yeah, that food business has been a way for me to keep in touch with my identity and kind of communicate to other people what Peranakan is, and a bit of kind of knowledge boost, and bring other people to me that are of that similar kind of cultural background as well.
I've seen some of your events online, and it's everyone from all walks of life turn up and are intrigued, because you do. We talked about food trucks and things, and you say an event, but yours is more focused on the whole experience. So how does that work? How do you do events, and how do you sell it basically?
Yeah, so it's sold as a supper club, and I think the way that business has been so successful has just been completely militant. So we had a very clear guideline that it was a heritage brand, and it was about Peranakan culture, and the things that we serve are true to what I grew up eating. So I was Malaysian till I was 5, and then I go back nearly every year, apart from a bit of a gap at the moment. I'm going in 20 days. But we just stuck to our guns on what we do. So people come to those supper clubs and they get 4 or 5 courses, and it's not a pick of a menu. Those are the courses you get. And those courses are curated around dishes that we've tried, that we've kind of perfected through putting together lots of different recipes. So a lot of those recipes, that the dishes that I would have eaten growing up or that are served, that you can't find a recipe because it's like your mum put it together or your grandma put it together or no one wrote it down. So we have to pull it together from 5 or 6 different recipes, which Rob does because he's the chef in the business, so that's his expertise. And I'll say, no, that's not quite right. No,
you just get to taste and be like, no.
Yeah, it's missing kind of this. So we've kind of, we've developed those dishes to taste as authentic. And it's not fine dining, it's comfort food. And that's the biggest kind of compliment we get, is when people come and they say, oh, that was like so comforting. It's like so nostalgic. It reminds me of something my grandma made me. I've not had that dish in 20 years. And that's what I want. And we don't charge premium for it. It's more carrying on a legacy, so people remember those traditions that they had, those feelings they had with the family, with their grandparents, instead of it kind of all being lost and forgotten. Like a lot of the food my cousins, my nieces and nephew eats, all Western. They really love pasta. They really like, my niece, I remember taking her to a very authentic restaurant in Malacca, which is famous for its chicken rice, rice balls and like full chicken. I was so excited to eat this chicken. And she just absolutely kicked off and only wanted pasta and cheese. And I was like, where is she eating all this pasta and cheese in Malaysia? We don't even have dairy here because it just melts, like, what, it goes off.
Oh, so she was still living there?
Yeah, she was born and raised in Malaysia.
Oh, wow. And pasta had become a staple.
Yeah, it is a staple. She adamantly just wants pasta and cheese, but doesn't speak any Chinese. And we speak Hokkien as our dialect as a family. Still should really. Her generation still speaks well, just to kind of converse with your grandparents, to have that connection. But yeah, she won't speak Chinese. She won't eat rice. Not that she has to exclusively, but she's just not open to try anything else. She's become that for me was like a real insight. And I was like, wow, I like so sad. Like when I go anywhere in the world, I want to try everything. So even if she were to travel, I feel like she's just kind of
stuck in there.
Yeah. So that's kind of like one facet of it.
Yeah. So you're keeping it alive. Well, like you say, it's that connection to where you're from, your heritage. I think you get that through, I need to come to one of your events and I need to taste the food to fully experience. But I've seen what you do, and it's an experience of food brings people together.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like across both businesses. I think the one thing I'm like as it's like 8 years old, it's coming up for 9, 10 years, and I think ahead, what do I want for a decade of like the businesses? And I think the main thing for me is that they both don't have ego, because looking back now, or even on my career, it's like 20 years in, what's the main thing that I'm gonna take away from working professionally is it's like I don't want there to be ego. I want things to be done because they mean something, or they're done well, or they leave an impact on someone else. Like that's a legacy. We leave a smile on someone's face with the food. We leave a smile on someone's face when we've taken their business comms and we've made it tell their story. We're not in it for the ego to be like, we worked on a big multi-million-pound brand. That's for both of the businesses. I just don't want that.
Make a difference.
Yeah. And I think that's probably something I've come to realise in the last couple of years. Like, what do you want to leave 10 years in for consumer? Because people always ask, do you want to sell the business? I'm like, no, I just spent a long time working on it. Like, just sell it.
Yeah, it's a legacy. It's something to be proud of.
Yeah. And a lot of it is my personality as well. So that should die with me. I don't want to brand package that up and sell that.
Yeah, no longer here, but we are.
Yeah, why are there these weird mockney sayings all across the website? I just bought it. It's weird.
Oh, the recipes, I'm intrigued. I think that happens a lot where grandma would make something. My nan had this chocolate cake recipe that's, I think, died with her because I never managed to get it off. And now I'm like in search of this recipe. But I imagine for you, like, how did you piece that together? Is it literally so many revisions of a dish to just try and get?
Yeah.
So you must be taking you back to childhood then, and that's quite a nice journey to.
That's I think I have heard a few other people say that they've got similar businesses. It's like that's the way of keeping in touch with the identity. So I was really fortunate. I went to Malaysia when I was like probably just over a year old with my mum. I went back to live with my grandparents, and I got to socialise with my great grandmother as well. So I had that whole surrounding of my grandparents, and then my granddad died. I think I was about 4. So my cousins don't know.
Yeah, okay.
They haven't had that connection. So that's probably why I'm more. I remember going to the coffee shop, and I still have that recollection of all those like dishes that are my favourite that haven't become just like they're not as interested.
Yeah.
And there's one particular dish. There's the chicken rice that we serve. That's our signature dish. And most of the whole business hinges off that chicken rice because it's one of the cheapest things you can buy on the roadside, but it's my absolute favourite. And it's the first thing I have when I get off the plane. I probably eat 3 times a day while I'm there. But it's just like it's such a plain thing. I don't know why you love it so much.
It's one of them things, and
because it's
connected to memories, isn't it? And it's connected to feelings, and there's so much more. Yeah, to food.
It's a simple dish that you get, you really enjoy. Like,
how's it any different to like tea and toast that we all like Brits love, or like anything traditional? It's
or like pasta and cheese. My niece loves so much.
Pasta and cheese. I'm laughing because my 3-year-old is obsessed with pasta and cheese, and it's got that bad that he doesn't even want the sauce anymore. I'm like, dude, he's like, just dry pasta and cheese with a bit of cucumber. I'm like,
at least she went to garnish.
It's worrying, isn't it, where food is taking us? I think we live such hectic lifestyles, which is why I think what you're doing is great, and people will be able to connect with it so well because we're so busy. We don't give time to developing, trying. I myself, I'm like the worst culprit. I don't really step outside my comfort zone anymore. Yet when I used to travel, you have no choice. So like some of the best dishes I've ever had have been in, in Asia. And now it's just like, I don't know, I feel like with British food, we've taken bits from other cultures, but we haven't really developed much.
Yeah, I think it is one of the things that is kind of an unsaid thing about what Rob and I do with Little Yellow Rice Co. is that we think it's kind of like, it's a real issue that people don't know how to cook with ingredients. It's like we have a lot of people that will come to stand and maybe be put off because we don't have chips or we don't have something recognisable. But then you've got other people that they don't recognise the name, but they'll read the ingredients and at least they'll know. But I don't think any worse the people that come and don't recognise those dishes because they haven't had enough exposure or experience with produce. And that's sad that they don't recognise those things, that they don't feel comfortable because they don't recognise that produce because they just haven't had that exposure in life. And do not talk about anything like crazy, like my partner, he won't eat aubergine and courgette. That's not wild, but if you've only ever had it and it's been like, not cooked, it only cooked in one way, and you didn't like that one way, then that vegetable's written off, isn't it?
No, you're right, because I for years thought I hated asparagus, and then like just weirdly, I don't know why, my husband just like fried it in some butter with a bit of bacon, and I was like, oh my god, asparagus is amazing.
What is this?
And aubergine as well. I actually think I've decided I don't like it, but I imagine if I was to revisit it with with different dishes,
cooked in different textures, different things so things like that. So like, we did a talk. Well, I did a talk, sorry, like last year for Easter Heritage Month, and someone's like, "What's your biggest TikTok trick that you could tell us?" And I was like, "Well, start to do TikTok, but
I'm out."
Yeah, but I'll tell you. And I was telling about how to cook chicken rice in a rice cooker, which takes about 15-20 minutes. And I was like, "This is my number one hack for you. Is like, if I get home from a night out, I don't wait 45 minutes for delivery and pay God knows what, living in Manchester.
Yeah.
So I find it quicker to get the rice cooker out, stuff a bit of rice in, put some chicken in, ginger, spring onions, put the lid down. 20 minutes later, there's wholesome meal and you don't feel bad." And this was like revolutionised the audience. Like, wow, you can make a meal in like 15, 20 minutes of chicken and rice. Like,
and the nutritional value pretty much kicks out any shit McDonald's.
Yeah. And also, I can't wait 45 minutes because I'm already hungry.
I mean, just imagine you taking like your rice cooker to the club and be like sitting in the corner. We'll come back to that.
Yeah. I'm trying to find another version of that where you don't need to have a rice cooker, because for me that's just a given.
Yeah.
I'm always like Saturn. Rob started buying rice cookers for people. He's like, we should have a little fun for people that have rice cookers so they can just apply to us. Like, just at Little Yellow Rice Co. Can you get me a rice cooker?
Branded rice cookers. There you go. Yeah, I actually don't have a rice cooker, so now I'm thinking
you could cook anything in that rice cooker, Yeah. It's like an air fryer.
Whoa, okay. Okay.
It's like there's like air fryer status but for rice cookers. You could like stew in it, you could do porridge in it, you could bake in it.
So this is the OG, this is the original, the old school.
Yeah.
And the air fryer's just basically come to the market saying it's something new, but it's not really, because you can do everything in it. Okay. I like that. So what's next for Little Rice Co. and you in general?
So at the moment I'm on hiatus. I've never had a hiatus before.
Speaking of it.
Not purposefully. I'm taking a month off because, I think coming off the pandemic seemed to have a long hangover for recovery for business, which again, I think, a lot of people are like, having a great time. It wasn't, it was terrible. It was a terrible time. And it took a long time to recover from that.
Well, because food and marketing, like you say, marketing's the first to go.
Yeah.
Food, obviously we couldn't unless you were doing Deliveroo, which is not it's not what you wanted to do.
We did a few different things. I will say, like, during that time, because there was less stuff coming through consume, though we weren't really affected because we're tech marketing. It did give me a little bit more time to focus on what we're going to do with the food business. But I think all in all, like, the race up to that, and then like turning 40, and I never had a bit of time, so I'm taking time out for them all. I'm going back to Asia. And then the plan is to come back and to apply consume comms marketing learnings and how we would treat a client to Little Yellow Rice Co.
Cool.
So, as a food business, we're established, people know us, they know what the food is, but I need to apply the same kind of strategic comms I would to any client to that business now. So, how we communicate with people. Maybe I will have to TikTok. Looking at the recipes, but everything we do with Little Yellow Rice Co, we do it from a slightly different perspective. So I would like to do a recipe book, but I don't want that recipe book to be about me and my recipes. We want that recipe book to come from the community. So not long ago, we did a community event for East and Southeast Asian elders. We just did like a lunar lunch thing for them. And they all had so many ideas, they had so many suggestions, and they were so positive. And I would rather a cookbook come from their ideas and be credited back to them than it be about like, oh, here's a story of me and my food, because it's not me and my food.
It's about the community and bigger.
Yeah, it's about the recipes that I've forgotten. So there's stuff like that, and we're looking to take a permanent place. So they'll be kind of working out how we do that, how we manage that, taking on staff for that, and how I balance the clients going forward for consume. Who do we want to work with? I don't really want event work now because I can't balance that. Those two things don't work together. You have to kind of try and find that balance between the food business and the marketing business, and events isn't going to cut it. So it'll be working out, picking consultancy bits.
Yeah, taking the best bits and then leaving the rest.
Yeah, it's the balance between the two businesses, really.
I'm just going to, I don't know whether it's the school that's trying to get hold of me. I'm just going to see if not, these people are, I only have it on in case there's like a disaster at the school, but my husband's on speed dial, so he should be picking up. This is very annoying. This has never happened before. This is the first, Hannah.
This is what happens when you have a struggle life.
What? And that, no, it's just because they've left me 3. I always get a bit worried if there's more than 3 calls. It's like somebody's fallen over, or if it's like someone with a delivery, I'm just going to shout abuse at them. What are you doing? Hello? Oh, hiya.
Understand everything where your business is going on.
Okay. Right, I'll if you go into the car park, I'll come out and find you, but you need to give me 10 minutes if that's okay. I'm just in the middle of a meeting. Is that all right? All right, I'll come and find you. Cheers, bye. Yeah, you can put that.
Managed to find
Put that on the social media, fucking cunts. Virgin Media have been trying to install my internet for like the past, and they're supposed to came on Tuesday. I waited in all day, never came, and then all of a sudden they're coming today with no warning.
I don't understand why they just come while they can, just with any kind of like
arseholes. Virgin Media will never sponsor this podcast. It's getting about something more important. He can fucking wait. So that's exciting, like a physical, but
yeah,
with challenges too, I guess.
Well, I think that Little Yellow Rice Co really works because obviously I come pre-packed with my marketing experience, and the way that we talk about it, one thing I always say to clients about creating comms is to do it authentically. So with Little Yellow Rice Co, I'm doing my own marketing, so it is authentic because everything that I write is already coming out of me and my family and my memories and how I want to say it. So that's pretty easy. And then I'm fortunate that Rob is a really good chef. He has a really good palate. Obviously, he's not of Malaysian descent.
Yeah, that's
He's from Wolverhampton.
That's authentic, right?
Well, that's not.
Where did he?
Like,
So where did he find? Was it through you that he found the love for the food and then started making the food, or was it?
He's been a chef for about 15 odd years, maybe more now.
Okay.
But he started off, like classic French. He was living in France, which is a great place to hone a skill as a chef. and then he moved to Leeds. We met in Leeds when he was working for another Leeds-based food business. And yeah, we went back. Went to Malaysia. Rob ate everything in sight. It's really difficult when you know someone that's a chef, because anywhere you eat, any restaurant in the world, they will say, "I could do that better." Really irritatingly, he has a really good palate. So when he says he can do it, he can do it, because they will just be able to pick out the elements. Whereas I'm like, I really enjoyed that. I would like to make that myself. He can actually do it.
Right. So it's like almost like reverse engineering.
It's kind of like, yeah, like if you made him into a Marvel character, I imagine like the food would just come apart into different layers and components, and then be stored in his like mechanical mind for later use. But yeah, he's just got I think he's got a really good palate, and he already had a natural kind of interest in South Asian food, and when I kind of started to show him Malaysian food, which is a real merging of all those different countries around East Asia, he just really kind of like flew with that. So I can make good food for like 4 people, but if you try and scale it to 20, I'd
yeah, it's a whole other yeah. It's a talent, isn't it, to be able to do that and to get everything out on time, or if it's an experience, make sure that one course rolls into the next.
Yeah, I mean, I manage all the marketing, all the front of house, all the driving from wholesalers, because he doesn't drive. So all he essentially has to do is cook.
Yeah.
All. He just has to cook and not cut himself. That's fine. But yeah, I think I'm really fortunate that we've got a good pairing. He came from hospitality. He is a chef. I have a background in events and hospitality. So when we go into opening, like when we was running Little Yellow Ice Co, we already had quite a lot of the skill set required. Whereas I see a lot of food businesses, they either have a passion for the food, or they'll maybe have a chef. But it's a hard go. It's hard going if you don't have the experience. If you don't know, I know I can run like 24 covers on my own. Whereas if you've not done that before, I've seen like it's hard going.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think we've got maybe probably a step ahead, because we already have that.
Yeah, you've got the key elements, haven't you? You've got, because they say you can have the most amazing business in the world, but without marketing, nobody knows about you. And you've got the marketing, but then you've got the backup of the cultural heritage of knowing where the stuff's coming from, the passion for that. And then it sounds like Rob, who just has to cook.
He just only has to cook.
Everything's
difficult.
Is like
amazing. Yeah, I think that's easy.
Do you have any kind of words of wisdom for anyone wanting to get into the space of either marketing or the food industry? If there's like one key thing that you've learned, I know there'll be millions. What advice would you give to someone?
I think for the food business, I think you need to find something that you believe in. And I think what I mean by that is you have to find something you enjoy, because it's really easy to get swept along in a gimmick. There are so many gimmicky food businesses, but if that's going to kind of go on long term, it has to have some kind of substance. It has to have something that you can build and grow with. And like Little Yellow Ice Co, we knew there were so many avenues we could take it down. So it's still so much more to be said. Still so much more to be cooked and done and spoken about. So I think, with a food business, you really have to have something of substance. It has to have some grounding so you can see, like, okay, 5 years' time, will this still look as good?
Will people still be interested in
how can I develop this? Or like, this is a start point, you can't do everything at once, but how can I develop this? Or where will I take it? Try not to create too much of a pigeonhole when you start that food business idea.
Yeah, which you do see. I think the growth of food trucks has kind of seen that, but the ones that stand good stead are always ones, I guess, with a good base. It's like any business, isn't it? If you've got a good base model, move forward.
I definitely keep it simple. You don't overcomplicate it.
Yeah, and prevent burnout.
Yeah, start with 1 good dish, 3 good dishes. It's more than enough to perfect.
Yeah, start small and then grow big.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Your story is fascinating. I love everything that you've been doing. You're a very level-headed businesswoman that's been very successful in what you do. You're welcome. I have a little gift for you. There's a little hoodie. I know you're already repping the old school sweater, so there's the new school.
Is it in the grey mark?
Yeah.